Welcome to World History Notes, where I read from the book that I wrote to teach homeschoolers world history, entitled The Bible Believer Looks for World History, which you can find on lulu.com, amazon.com, or at the Bible Baptist Bookstore. Um, I draw conclusions from studying world history from the perspective of a Bible-believing Christian. So if you might not be one, you won't like some of the things I say or conclusions I draw. You might even be offended, but that's great as long as you have an opinion and you know about these events and you have enough interest, not just to be angry at me, but to find out what the truth is as far as you're concerned, about what you're convinced the truth is. So we're going to discuss this now. I'm going to start with Pope Honorius the First was ruling from Rome, having succeeded Boniface the Fifth at his death in 625. After a pontificate, Boniface V spent pulling the English Christians more firmly into the Catholic dominion. Honorius I, who was pope until 638, was later condemned as a heretic at the Council of Constantinople, or First Trullan Council, in 680, long after his death, for his compromising with the sect of the Monophysites, who believed that Christ only had one nature. This had been rejected at the Council of Chalcedon in 451. For Honorius' attempts to compromise by upholding the alternative view called monothelitism that said that Christ had one will but two natures, human and divine, he was used as an argument against the doctrine of papal infallibility put forth at the First Vatican Council of 1870. Having defeated the Persians in 627, the Emperor Heraclius allied with the Ethiopians and regained all of the territory he had lost. In 630, at the height of his and Muhammad's power, he marched into Jerusalem and Muhammad marched into Mecca. Heraclius restoring a relic called the True Cross to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which supposedly encompasses the ground where Jesus was crucified. The emperor took sick immediately after his victory and never fought at the head of his army again. Before his death, the Eastern Roman army would come face to face with triumphant Muslims. I'm sorry about that. Uh, let me get back to what I'm doing here. It's pretty funny. With triumphant Muslims, a triumphant Muslim army, okay, which had united the Arabian Peninsula at the Battle of Yarmouk in 636. The Roman army was defeated by the Muslim army there in a battle that is marked as one of the most important in the world history, as it represents the advent of Islamic conquest of the Middle East, and for that matter, all of Islam's conquest outside of Arabia. I'm going to talk about another of, and this is the Battle of Yarmouk, so Yarmuk 636. I want to talk about the Quran for a second. Um, the word Quran or Quran, Qur apostrophe an, means a reading or a discourse in Arabic. Is considered to be the sacred scriptures to the Muslim. If you want to make a comparison with Roman Catholicism, Muhammad would be like Mary, the mother of God, and the Quran would be like Jesus Christ, the living eternal word. Of course, to a Bible believing Christian, Muhammad is merely another in a long line of false prophets, typifying the Antichrist, the beast to come in many different ways. The Quran is an accumulation of sayings spoken by one man. Muhammad dictated some of the writings put down on parchment, leather, palm leaves, or bones, and they were spoken to an assembly and deposited with other revelations in no special chronological or logical order. After Muhammad's death, it was ordered by his replacement in 633, the Caliph Abu Bakr, that these writings be brought together in a book for the edification of the Muslims. As these were brought together in various forms, it became clear there were too many different versions saying different things. So another successor to Muhammad, another caliph in 651, ordered a definitive and official revision to be a standard for all Muslims. In spite of this, copies in various languages and dialects speak differently, so it's considered imperative for the Muslim who truly wants to know to learn Arabic, the first and official language of Islam. The 114 chapters called surahs are arranged in order of their length, with the longest first, not doctrinal import or chronological sequence. Since the earlier revelations were shorter, the Quran is actually written in a kind of reverse chronological order. The book is considered the first literature written in Arabic and the best. Muhammad borrows much from the Bible and mixes up timelines and puts people with other people who did not live at the same time, however. The Quran also makes odd statements about how the Holy Land does indeed belong to the Jews which makes the Palestinian Arab an interloper. There are contradictory statements about Christians and Jews as well. First, honoring them as, quote, people of the book, stating the Gospels are the word of God and should be believed, but then going on to say that Christians and Jews are to be despised, and that if a rock had one hiding behind it, the rock would cry out and tell the Muslim that there was a Jew or Christian hiding behind it. Of course, this is irrelevant to the Muslim, as like a modern Christian, he or she is less concerned about what their holy book actually says as much as what some important person of faith to them says that it actually means. Now, the efforts of the first Muslims to spread their religion, Muhammad's successors, from 632 to 1058, they cut a swath of conquest using the superior horsemanship of the Arabian nomad to overthrow the Roman and the Persian cavalry and infantry formations. In 635, they took Damascus. In 636, Antioch, where Christians were first called as such. In 638, Jerusalem, the year that the Emperor Heraclius died, who had so proudly rode into Jerusalem to reconquer it 8 years earlier. By 640, all of Syria was Muslim, and by 641, Persia and Egypt had been conquered. At first, the Muslim conquerors were gracious to the Christians over which they ruled, even respecting their holy places. Islam spread through Afghanistan and into throughout Asia Minor to the Black Sea. In the struggles for the control of Islam, Ali, the son in law of Muhammad, was killed and became a martyr, and those devoted to him became the Shia sect of Islam, called Shiites in today's news. Minority sect of Islam, they are in contrast to the Sunni sect, which represent the majority view. Two important dynasties ruled over Islam early on: the Umayyads from 661 to 750, and the Abbasids from 750 to 1058. From Spain to India, Islam was a prevailing force of arms and diplomatic persuasion. In 1060, the Seljuk Turks of Central Asia conquered Armenia, which had been the first country to be called a Christian nation by historians. And though only an individual person can truly be called a Christian, it does make for a convenient categorizing of nations by the predominant profession of faith. The Armenians had retained their independence by being nominally under the Caliph, keeping their faith and operating independently. So, next time we're going to talk about the Byzantine Empire before we go on to Northwestern Europe. I thank you for listening to me, and I hope you'll dig into American world history and study it. Thank you.